Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nerd Street Gamers First Strike Open Qualifier tournament series that looks to crown a North American champion at the end of 2020. One team to hold the crown high above the rest and prove that they are indeed the best. This Open Qualifier started with 128 hopeful teams, and now we've narrowed it down to 4 spectacular rosters to duke it out in the semi-final showdown. But of course, before we dive into the nitty and the gritty of these four teams, gotta introduce ourselves, the casters. Now, to Twitch chat, we might be known as Cringecaster number 1 and Cringecaster number 2, KEKW, but to others, we are Simo and Esports Doug. Now, Doug, listen, I'll take the fall for Cringecaster number 2, KEKW. I'll take that one graciously, and I'll let you have number 1.
That's fine. I'll take number 1. I was going to ask when you introduced us that. I was like, all right, but who's number 1? Who's number 2? No, absolutely excellent intro, by the way. Knocked it out of the park. I'm so freaking excited. Like, this entire week and all of the storylines and what the new meta is going to be and these new rosters and how they're going to perform, to start with 128 teams, to get through all of the storylines and all of the upsets, and to find ourselves here. My goodness. What more could we possibly ask for?
Yeah, you know, for those of you that are relatively new to the First Strike format, we started, like I said, with 128 teams. All of the matches were best of 3. It was a single elimination bracket. If you're out, you're out. Top 16 will move on to the closed qualifier next week from the 4th to the 8th. We are looking for 4 teams to qualify through the Nerd Street Gamers bracket, and then UMG will follow up later in November to qualify the other 4 teams, or 8 teams will duke it out for the final Riot event in December for the first place prize, which is obviously the best team in North America. We're looking at some of the teams, how they got here. Got obviously GEN.G slamming straight through the Sentinels in a 2-0 victory. Team Envy had to fight a little bit harder up against T1. TSM, a very surprising victory. We can talk a little bit about that later in the matchups to come, but a very convincing victory over the 100 Thieves. And then Cloud9 struggled a little bit against the Slimy Boogerman, but if I was up against them, I'd probably struggle a little bit too.
Well, and like you said, that brings us here, right? These are some of the matches that I've been waiting for, and you know, as we have followed the bracket the entire time, you put an asterisk around some possibilities, right? Like, oh, what if these 2 teams meet? What if these 2 teams meet later on? Or maybe that's just me and I'm a nerd and nobody else does that, which is fine. But these 4 teams, these were some of the possibilities that I was most excited for. And we can talk through larger storylines, but Envy with the new roster, how will they perform? You've got GEN.G. They benched Effies for a little while, and they've added Sean. What's Sean going to be able to do things as you see the rosters come up here on your screen? So this matchup, there's so much we can talk about, but I am very, very excited about this matchup.
Well, let's actually just dive into that. We can worry about TSM and Cloud9 later, because that'll occur at 5 p.m. Pacific time or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever it is that you're located in North America watching this. But we can start by teeing things off here with GEN.G up against Envy. The big glaring thing for pretty much most of the teams, well, actually, you know, it's just these 2, not the opposite side of the bracket. But GEN.G and Envy both have had roster swaps. You've got Sean, like you said, coming in instead of Effie's, playing less of a supportive role and more of a duelist role, trying to take the opposition head on. He used to play an initiator role on the Sova for Moon Raccoons, and now this pickup, he's done wondrous things on Sova, and I always said, what if they put him on a duelist? What if he was the fragging power for the Moon Raccoons? Well, now he's on GEN.G, now he's on the Reyna, now he's on the Raze, so now he's actually packing a punch, and he's doing so phenomenally. On the flip side, we do have Envy, Mame, depending on the map, going to a more supportive role with the Omen instead of the Jet. On the flip side, we've got Food coming in and adding an additional duelist role alongside Caboose to give that extra firepower that Envy may have needed in comparison to the prior roster with Calypso and Aegis.
And like you said, for both of these squads, it's an addition of somebody who can frag out, of somebody who can slay and add a little bit of firepower to the roster. But I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the GEN.G roster in particular. Effie's, as we mentioned, not currently on the roster in exchange for Sean. I mentioned this. I know you and I have talked about this off camera. I know I've mentioned this on a number of different shows. One of the things that's always impressed me so much about GEN.G is how fundamentally sound they are, right? Like, they were as successful as they were prior to Sean without anything insanely flashy. Yeah, Win would have his pop-off games, but they were just good, right? Like fundamentally, the squad was sound, and they were as successful as they were with that. Now they add somebody in Sean who can light up a kill feed, who can provide a little bit of relief for Win and not have Win be the one who has to bear all of that weight. This roster looks terrifying right now.
Yeah, he's averaging the highest kills per round for the roster at 0.92 per round. That is higher than the closest second would be Hyun at 0.88, and that makes sense. He's on the Jet. North America still needs a Jet in the roster. In fact, I think everybody still needs a Jet in the roster to perform, despite the slight changes to Jet in some of the previous patches. But Food coming in has definitely been a light up here for Envy as well, boasting 1.46 on the KD, 0.88 kills per round, and he's been able to participate in a numerous amount of clutches, having the highest clutch percentage of the roster itself. So Envy, I think, has had a little bit of a bigger shakeup, considering a lot of the pieces for Gen.G have kind of remained the same in terms of what roles the agents are playing, right? In terms of Envy, you're seeing Mame now not 50% of the time he's on the Jet, but 50% of the time he's on the Omen, giving more space for Food to play. And that is a sacrifice Envy have had to make, and we're obviously seeing it pay off in tenfold. But the one critical thing that I do want to mention, the stakes of this open qualifier. If you've made it into the top 16, you're only playing for seeding now. There's no prize pool. All that matters is the seeding going into the closed qualifier. So we can even highlight Gen.G's win over the Sentinels yesterday. There was a lot of critical points that were mentioned to say, hey, is the Sentinels roster playing at full force? You could argue maybe not so much. So Envy, I think, had a little bit better preparation moving into this tournament. They had a lot to prove. They had difficult opponents in T1, and complexity definitely gave them a run for their money. But it feels like they had a lot more hard-fought victories, whereas the Sentinels yesterday just felt like, hey, Gen.G were able to do exactly what they were going to do. They were going to play fundamental Valorant, and Sentinels like, you know what, we're going to save some of the strats for the closed qualifier.
Well, and it's actually really interesting you say that as we begin to load into the first map, folks. We are going to split where neither squad has a ton of reps. Both of them are 1-0, but they don't have much of a sample size for it, and we're kicking off right onto the bat as they're starting to load their way onto that A side, and Envy looks like they're going to be able to get on there with relative ease. What we have seen from Gen.G, however, is that they're very comfortable fighting for retakes. We'll see how that plays out here.
You already have a heavy, aggressive push towards the screen side. Envy looking for every single inch they can find, and Caboose starting us off with a pick in towards that defender spawn. And now Gen.G have to do their due diligence and clear out the screens. We'll see Sean now leading the charge on the duel. The latest addition to Gen.G, and looks like he'll start out with a frag, but it's quickly taken care of as now Gen.G push onto the site.
It's going to drop things down into a 3v3 if Guman is able to get onto the site at all. Flashes left and right, but it's actually Mame and Food who are dealing the damage. It's going to be Guman by himself, and he's not going to be around for long as Envy strike first blood.
While we have a little bit of time, Envy winning this pistol on the attack is good for them. You know, looking at their record on Split, they have a phenomenal attack win rate percentage, but the sample size is unfortunately one map. So there's not a whole lot that we can say, but they are still quite comfortable on the defense as well. On the flip side, this should be Gen.G's half on the defense. We haven't touched on what the map pick and bans actually are. We've got Gen.G banning out Bind, which is the best map for Envy this tournament. And then we're moving on to Split first, which was picked by Envy. Gen.G pick Ascent, and then we're going to be landing on Haven for the last and final map of the series if we do end up needing it. Envy now pushing on to this A site once again with weapons online, and Gen.G still, of course, on the E.
And again, it looks like they're just going to try for the retake. You imagine conventional wisdom says this should go in favor of Envy, but you can never count this new Gen.G roster out, especially with Sean in the lineup, rocking that frenzy, but he's not going to be around for very long. That frenzy's not going to sink. The Spectres are mowing through Gen.G here as they're down to 3 members left, and the spike is ticking as well. Simo, this is a tough ask for this Gen.G squad.
Yeah, they're still going to try their best, but sometimes when you try your best, you don't always succeed, and considering the odds are stacked against you in that instance, Envy were statistically correct in winning that round, that second round conversion. This is the round where it all boils down to for Gen.G. This is where you need to start building up that momentum. This is your first gun round of the half. Phantoms across the board, fully spent up. If Envy can somehow sneak this one out, this is the side that Gen.G tend to prefer. The one sample size that we have, they had a 75% win rate on the halves on the defensive side. This is where they need to come online.
And again, they're going to have the artillery here. They're going to be able to do it. One thing to note when we think about this matchup on this map in particular, Envy, the last time they played this map was up against T1. And if you hadn't been following along, they beat T1 13-1. So they certainly feel comfortable playing on this map. And so far, things are looking pretty. We're going to see a very different look this time as Envy is investing all of their resources over onto B. And yet again, GEN.G is fighting for the retake.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this off broadcast. GEN.G very comfortable in the retake. Often you'll find yourself, Sean, maybe the last player standing, has to clutch things out. And speaking of the devil, he finds the first pick with a headshot. Envy, lack of weaponry or lack of desirable weaponry are starting to try to push onto the site. Sean gonna find one, as Food will trade him out. Down to the 3v4, but look, Tails up above. He's gonna find two, Mo's down the third, alongside player one, and GEN.G force the retake, find the defuse, and put a round on the board.
Yeah, an important round, and again, the pistol is a 50-50, right? Like, you can never tell how that's going to go. The team who wins the pistol generally wins the second one, and it's the third round where things are spicy, and it all depends on the guns that the winning team brings into it. So Envy had, I believe it was 3 Spectres and 2 Phantoms, so they did not have full artillery, so GEN.G was able to capitalize on that. We're able to retake over onto the B site, but it did take some heroics. So GEN.G responding well, looking good so far in an ever-important round. A slow start by Win, but still plenty of time to play.
Of course, for Envy, looking at their economy, this is an important round as well. If they want to continue that early pistol and second round conversion momentum, this will be a round for them to be obviously victorious in. But GEN.G, they want to get off to a hot start here on the defense, and it's important for them to do so. Weapons online still, as they were only able to, I think, lose 3 members in that previous round, so they still have a lot of economy to work with. But we're kind of hanging by a thread for both sides, so an important round.
And it's interesting, I love what we're seeing out of Envy here. We saw a heavy hit A twice, then we saw a heavy hit B. Now, they're playing this far more slowly, they have a little bit more presence around mid, and they haven't fully pulled the trigger on anything yet. So they're, on the attacking side, they're doing what they can to keep GEN.G on their toes. And it looks like now they're going to flood onto the A side. It's going to be a bit delayed, but it looks like a heavy stack that way, and GEN.G is not prepared for it.
It's funny that that smoke actually helped out Envy a lot more, because the flash came through there from Gimon, but I don't think he was able to flash anyone. Now they'll start to come through. Caboose has got the showstopper. I'm a little bit afraid for you, but he doesn't. Gimon will find him. Will he find the second back sight? No, he will not. Finesse will do exactly that. Take him down. Now it's a 2v4 with Envy up on numbers.
Spike planted.
That shouldn't have happened, and it works out for Envy. They're able to get the spike down anyway, but Food's going to drop as well. Sean is able to take him out with the Spectre, drop things down to a 3v2 in favor of Envy. The spike is down. GEN.G looks like they're going to try to be pushing in from a couple of different angles. Player 1 is going to get the first interaction. He is going to be able to take out Crashies. It's going to even things up into a 2v2. You hear the showstopper has been used this time from Sean. We'll see if he's able to have better success. And while it wasn't as egregious of a miss, it was a miss nonetheless. He's going to drop things down to a 1v1. Mummy gets it in the face. Sean's able to take him out with the Spectre. GEN.G knotted up at 2.
Well, I mean, going into this, Sean was the player on the team that was able to clutch things out the most. Now, that's a 1v many scenario. It brought it down to a 1v1. They traded there on the site. But if there's somebody that I'm going to trust on GEN.G in a 1vx scenario, it's going to be Sean. And he proved his worth there. It wasn't a 1v2, it wasn't a 1v3, it was a pretty standard 2v2 with player 1 there along his side. If it was a 1v2, Sean is the player that you want in that scenario for GEN.G. On the flip side, Envy tried to hold on, but backside just wasn't strong enough, and now they'll be down to a little bit of a softer buy with pistols online for a couple of members.
On Simo, you wonder, I hate to boil a round down to one single moment, but you wonder, had he gotten that kill with the showstopper, if we're having a different conversation. This time, it's the Blade Storm that's far more effective out of Mummy.
Looking at the push in here with the red carpet, it's rolled out for the team, but they are still interested in pushing forward. Remember, this is the eco, but Blade Storm has been popped. I like that one way as he uses it to escape, and they may be looking for a late round B hit as they've already committed 3 members towards that side. GEN.G are very stacked towards this A site, but we're now seeing the pull off there from Sean. You highlighted in the pregame, prior to this tournament, prior to the stream, that Sean likes to rotate from site to site, so keep an eye on him, how he ends up in the late round scenarios. He's going back towards the A site. That's unfortunately the incorrect call.
Yeah, we'll see if Player One just needs to stay alive here. If he can get a trade, that's great. He was able to get one, gets taken out. But now the onus is going to be on Gen.G to pull all of their resources back once again into a retake situation where, unfortunately, they're outnumbered. Also worth noting, Simo, you called it at the beginning of the round, Envy's on a soft buy here. So this is a big round for them to win.
Oh, Caboose. We've seen so much from Caboose in prior tournaments, especially his performances at the Pop Flash tournament, the last Ignition Series pit stop. Now, once again, here he is in the open qualifier, ready to swing in from the Heaven side. Gen.G pushing in, but yeah, guess who was behind you all along? He still sees one, but Sean has no idea. I don't really know why he's pre-firing that. His teammate had the angle there, but now when all down to him, he's going to at least take out Caboose for his troubles. But Envy on the soft buy find a very successful round as Gen.G cannot force the retake.
Well, and this is, again, we've seen a couple of different looks out of Envy so far, right? We mentioned the hot and heavy on A and B early on. Then we saw a bit of a delayed push where they waited for a while, kind of showed some stuff around mid, and then invested. This time, it was very similar to that. They waited. It was not an immediate pull of the trigger, but the difference was they showed something at A, right? The Blade Storm was there. They made a little bit of ruckus, and then they invested everything on the other side of the map, and that left Gen.G guessing. It was their inability to get resources over there in time that gave them that round on that soft buy. So, again, for Envy, I'm seeing a couple of different looks out of them, and I like what I see so far.
To be fair, we don't have a huge sample size on Split for either of these teams, but at least the initial look, because it does feel like Envy is relatively in control. We still need a couple more rounds to have a true sight on it. But when we move on to the following map, which will be Ascent and Haven, I expect things to be extremely close, considering Gen.G has been playing Haven non-stop throughout the entirety of the tournament here. But Envy, these fast hits on sites have been so difficult for Gen.G to deal with. They lose a member initially, and then they're forced to play the retake, and then the retake just doesn't really quite work out. We'll have to pay attention as they're now pushing in towards the B side, find two picks. Again, Gen.G's not really on the most ideal weaponry, but a pick from Win.
Yeah, we'll see if he can make that Phantom sing once more. It sounds like the spike is going to go down, and the neural that has been used. Any element of surprise or secrecy is, for all intents and purposes, gone as Gen.G fight to take this site back. And it looks like they might not even want to, Simo. You see Win is already starting to back off. It looks like they might just try to play for exits. Oh, boy.
Really, that's what the setup looks like. You'll see Mame is anticipating at least some form of action, a late round rotation from Guimon as he pushes in through the middle. He's got a stinger, not a whole lot to work with, but can still do some chip damage, maybe even convert on a kill, especially considering Sean's leading the charge with minimal HP. He will very likely be taken out here in just a moment, because Guimon hears this. He hears players on the opposite side, but will he act? Slowly moving forward. Here comes the movement. There's the shot, but Caboose has the angle. Doesn't check the corner there. I think Guimon was more interested in past the doorway there. That's a weird angle to sit in anyways if you're Caboose, but he still finds success there nevertheless.
Well, and again, it was a Spectre, or excuse me, it was a Stinger. So he loses the Stinger, so be it. Now let's take a look at the guns that are being brought online. The one thing to note is the Operator yet again. We talk about the nerfs to the Operator and the increase in cost and how Jet synergizes with that weapon. For Win, it doesn't seem to matter. He's going to bring that into this round. We'll see if he's able to prove some sort of success with this, as it's been spotty at best up until now. Envy up 2 here.
Another slow round here for Envy. One of the first looks towards the middle. The site hits, have been very convincing on the respective, choke points that Gen.G have a hold on. Early looks, Win actually very deep in the garage there, but it's been the A site split the entire time, no pun intended. They're going to be funneling. They've got Heaven Control, but normally with split, Heaven Control doesn't net you a lot. You actually need to get onto the site, and you're seeing 3 rotate now as Finesse will stop the lurk from player 1.
It does not look like weapons seem to matter a whole lot for Envy as they come out of the gate swinging. They've already, managed to take care of 2 members of Gen.G and leave Gen.G outnumbered yet again. Folks, as we mentioned earlier, we don't have a huge sample size on this map for either of these squads. Envy did the dirty business to T1 on here, but Gen.G only has 1 rep on here as well, so this really is a coin toss when you think about the the entire storyline of the series in this best of 3. So far, the coin toss very heavily going in favor of Envy, as it looks like they're going to pocket yet another round.
Wynn's got a very interesting angle here. Oh, sees the peek. Oh, misses a crucial shot down to 10 HP. Now the team's starting to retreat. A couple of pre-fire shots here from Food as he's looking through the smoke. Gen.G's just trying to hold on to these weapons, especially the operator. They want to bring that into the next round. Food, once again, try peeks. Sean will be there on the opposite side as Mummy now looking for something as well. I want to clarify as well, chat might be saying, hey, what do you mean they don't have reps? These teams have been playing in the Ignition series for the past couple of months. Of course they've got reps on Split. I'm talking recency. Ignition series has been kind of down and out for a little bit. They've been taking time here at Riot to prepare for the First Strike tournament. A lot of pieces have been changed here for Gen.G and Envy as well. The addition of Sean, the addition of Food and Crashies. Honestly, this open qualifier feels like a whole new ball game for a lot of teams. And so for recency, there aren't a lot of reps, especially within the tournament. We're talking within the bubble of the tournament. Both teams have only played one map for Split each.
We're seeing another heavy hit onto A again, but this time there's a ton, keeping them at bay. As you see the guns, you see the smokes, the utility, it's everything that's keeping Envy down. They've already dropped 2 members left. You hear the showstopper has been used, but Mikhail comes in with the sucker punch. Hits him on the blind side, takes care of FNS. Sean is still going to be holding things down up in heaven. Now Envy could rotate out, and it looks like it's exactly what they've done. But the utility on B gives him away. They know that's where he is. You presume the spike has gone there as well. You hear Food started planting, but it's actually rotated away. He has not gotten the spike down yet.
He covers himself with the smoke. I find that very interesting. Finesse was waiting for Sean to jump out with the showstopper, and it's kind of like he was playing grounders on a playground, you know? He was just with his eyes closed, walking into screens, and of course there was somebody on the opposite side waiting for him. Crashy, he's going to be looking for another opportunity to actually help out Food with a red carpet that's rolled out in heaven. Player 1, alongside Sean, are going to be holding this angle. Well, Food swings. He's not even going to find a single player. Neural Theft. Gen.G really want to secure the round. They don't want to let any heroics happen on the empty side, as Crashies is looking for exactly that. Here's the peek from Wynn. Almost loses the op there. And his head, not to mention. But Sean with the 3K on the round. Gen.G nipping at the toe heels here for Envy.
Hey, Simo. What is grounders? Playing grounders at a playground? Is this a Canadian thing?
Okay, so just very quickly, grounders, kids have to stay on the playground. The person that's on the ground has to, you know, stay with their eyes closed. They yell out grounders. The kids on the playground yell out grounders back, and he has to kind of, he or she that is on the ground has to play tag based on sight. Based on hearing, sorry, not on sight. They're walking around, eyes closed, trying to hear where people are, and Finesse was doing exactly that. He was looking up above. He heard the showstopper, but he didn't anticipate who was there, Mikhail, to catch him with his open arms in the smoke, and Finesse was not quick to react.
That sounds like a sour game for the one who has to play off of sight. But back to the game, there are 2 ops, one on each side here in this round. We saw Wynn obviously has one as well. Nice. Oh, and the op battle goes in favor of Wynn. We were just highlighting him. Mummy gets taken out. Numbers advantage, Gen.G.
It's a good early pick here as well. We've been looking at these fast sight hits for Envy. I'd imagine there's a world where Wynn can't handle a brute force push on towards the A side. He might find a pick, he might miss. It just depends on the circumstance. But considering Envy play this a little bit slower, Wynn has the opportunity to really just make magic work. He will eventually get taken out. The numbers is still in favor of Gen.G, but Envy are looking to even that out. Now rotating from the heaven side. Kimon will help with the pick onto Caboose. The red carpet's about to be rolled out because they want to secure this round. But Kimon, he cancels.
30 seconds
Spike's still
left.
not planted, and Gen.G are in the area. They got to work out here for Envy.
There's that rolling thunder that you called, but Food is able to get one. Give him the 3rd on the round, as he knows exactly where the last player on Gen.G is. They're just going to smoke up and buy time. You don't have to play this aggressively. And again, on Gen.G, it's just Sean. Sean, the new addition to the roster. What kind of heroics do you have in you? He's going to blast pack his way in, but he only has 11 health. Not even going to get a chance to fire his gun as Food takes him out. A 4K on the round for him, and Envy are up 3 rounds.
Food played that so well as well. Sean was a little, I'd probably say trigger happy. He wanted to solidify the frag as opposed to have to deal with the post-plant scenario. But in that case, if he gets the plant down anyway, you have extra time to work with. You have no reason pushing in. You think you're going to secure the kill? He put a smoke up, and he has time to reposition because you didn't push forward. I think for Sean, he could have played that a little bit more defensively because he had the time. Food did not.
Well, without time, he still did everything that he needed to, everything that he could have against Gen.G. And again, that pocketed Envy another round. This is going to be a good on good, folks. Both teams are going to have full weapons. I believe there was an op. I saw there was definitely an op in that. Okay, so there are two ops once again. One in the hands of Win, one in the hands of Mummy. Thank you, observers. We saw the last round go in favor of Win. Oh no, but this time it goes in favor of Mummy, and that's through the freaking smoke.
Beautiful communication. Caboose was like, hey, he's playing close left. Get the shot. Mame, very well done there. That's going to open things up for Envy. I feel like every round that they've won have started with a pick. This could be another round win here for Envy.
And then also worth noting, Win also had the Blade Storm. So this was a heavy investment round for Gen.G that they needed to win, and so far advantage Envy. They don't have any ultimates to work with this round, but they do have personnel, they have weaponry, they have everything they want. And right now, if they do opt to go for the B site, they're going to have numbers as well, as Gen.G only have 2.
They do have a player playing back inside. Sean,
30
unfortunately,
seconds left.
blinded. Can see the light, but can no longer see his friends as he's taken down. Envy have a huge numbers advantage on the round. Two players remain here for Gen.G. And if this is going to be, you know, anything like the rounds previous, I'd imagine they'd be either looking for exits or looking for the save. They've got great weapons in hands, assault rifles on both sides, phantoms across the board here for player one and Mikael. Yeah, they want to save it. The buy's not looking good for the round to follow. They want to keep that in hand. And mind you, I do not believe we're playing on the latest patch, which punishes the saves. It gives you less credits in the round to follow. So we're not playing on that patch, so it's quite correct here for Gen.G to save their weapon.
All right, Simo, talk to me about, let's play devil's advocate here, all right? Gen.G has struggled so far. They're down 3 rounds. We know that Envy is very good on this map, at least off of the small sample size that we have. What's Gen.G doing wrong? What is it that Envy is able to exploit time and time again?
You know, I think it really boils down to how Envy are playing the first contact scenario. It just seems to be going their way consistently. And for Gen.G, they often have found themselves in a position where they're not really prepared for the hit, right? We saw in that round previous win, he was perfectly fine. He's like, you know what, I'm just going to do a little bit of a peek. Maybe I might dash in with the Blade Storm. I'm thinking about it. But Envy have played the communication game super well. They know exactly where the Gen.G players are positioned. They're really only using Finesse to get that intel, and whoever is entering here, it's going to be Mame for this instance. But they've been playing the first contact scenario exceptionally well.
A light buy situation here for Gen.G. I think there were a couple of sheriffs. It wasn't a good situation financially or in regards to firepower. As you see there, you see a couple of light shields as well. So they're certainly not going to have the punch that they would like to bring into this round. We'll see if Envy are able to capitalize on this brief moment of weakness from Gen.G. It looks like they're going to try to hit over onto A. They've established some presence around mid. Oh my gosh, Caboose is trying to win with the Sheriff. That's a huge shot.
Yeah, that's not even a headshot. That's a cap shot. Shot raises snapback right off there. Clean. Now Envy, like you pointed out, down a member. And you could see the way Gen.G were positioned. They've got player one in the garage. They had Guimont and Mikael playing very close on the A-site choke point. And they had Win playing towards the box in the courtyard there. They wanted to be the first contact point instead of Envy thinking, okay, they're going to play backside. We're going to have an opportunity to push in. We're going to have a lot of space. They're not giving that space to Envy this round, despite the weapon disadvantage.
No, and that easily could have gone the other way, right? Caboose to have gotten up as far as he did on that flank could have proven to be disastrous. But again, Gen.G was able to win it. It looks like Envy is going to flood onto the side as 2 members of theirs have already dropped. Who's able to trade one back out, however, as Mame drops with the operator. It looks like it's going to be a thrifty round win for Gen.G unless Food can do something about it. Ladies and gentlemen, already on a 4K. The time runs out, but not without fireworks from Food. What a play.
Yeah, that's definitely not what they wanted to happen. Last round of regulation. Of course, Gen.G are still going to have enough to buy, but they would have not wanted that scenario regardless. They win the round, but at what cost? It feels a little crazy for Food to be able to just pop off like that. When you look at the statistics, you look at players like Food for Envy, so it makes a whole lot of sense that he's putting on a performance like this. When we swap over to other maps, however, you're going to likely see him on the Phoenix, on the Raze, giving him a little bit more space as opposed to the Omen. where you're just limited to the flash and the smoke and the reposition. But with the Phoenix, I'd imagine we're going to see a little bit more of a highlighted performance from Food and really just pop off additionally. Good early pick here from Win. Opens up this last round of regulation for the half.
Last 2 rounds where Gen.G was able to get the opening pick. The previous one and now this one as well. And well, we know how the last one ended. It didn't lack heroics. But it did go in favor of Gen.G. We'll see if they're able to replicate that success. This time it looks like Envy is going to try to do a little something through mid, but the operator battle once again going in favor of Mummy. That's going to allow them to get into the site.
Now the Bladestorm as well. Finesse will pay attention to how he's deciding to play this out because we do have player 1 playing contact towards the garage side. We do have support from Sean up above. He gets a great angle. He could try to mow him down. The Paranoia is going to temporarily blind him, but now as they start to swing, he's flash. He's got a hive, but they don't
turn around!
Oh, you'll still find a Mummy with the slice and the dice. 3 on the round. Spike being planted. Gen.G now in a very disadvantageous position. Have to retake the site.
Mummy still has operator, still has the Bladestorm as well, and you go for it, right? Roll the die. It's going to be the last round of the half. No reason to keep anything. We'll see if they're able to pull something off. Mikhail's immediately going to get tagged up by the tripwire and the additional CC from Breach. Going to try to reposition, but look at how aggressively Mummy can play this with the Bladestorm just in the smoke. Oh, Mikhail's able to get one. Guimon gets one as well. Guimon with the third, or excuse me, with the second. He's going to use the Rolling Thunder and push things out as Envy's just down to 1 member left, and it's Food. Who else but Food? He is able to get the 1v1 win and get them the last round at half. Envy up huge going into the second half.
Switching sides.
If there's anyone I want in that scenario, I want it to be Food for Envy, right? We'll have a look at the replay in just a moment, and we'll see how exactly that, of course, panned out here. Go Puff, the replay provider here, the instant replay provider. Food, he does end up falling here. I think that was a look at a little bit of a different round. We're looking at the half at hand, sorry. A lot of highlights here, of course, for Envy. Most importantly, Gen.G did find a couple of first early picks on some of the rounds, but I'd imagine the first blood consistently went into the hands of Envy. And you look at heroics like this from Food, it puts him in such a great position to clutch rounds that Gen.G have business winning.
Well, and the thing is, Simo, it wasn't just once, right? Food did that 2 or 3 different times in situations where he really, it's insane that he pulled it off. So keep a close eye on Food, see if he's able to continue to play at that high of a level in the second half. Now that they're on defense, now that they're waiting and responding, we'll see if he's able to continue that. Win is going to dash directly onto the site. It looks like it's going to be a heavy hit onto A, and Caboose and FNS just mow Gen.G down.
Now it's down to Mikhail backside. Unfortunately, does not have a lot of success. It's all down to 1 final player. Player 1, exactly. He's going to find 2 with the shots on the Ghost down to the 1v2. Unfortunately, Spike is in enemy territory. He's got to find his way in. He's going to rotate all the way around through the middle. But Envy, so far, have had a very successful round being able to stop the push on the B site. We talked a little bit about, not at length, but how aggressive Gen.G can be on the attacking side. But look, it really just does look like Envy have had a phenomenal time on their own attacking side and have really surprised Gen.G at how fast the hits have been. So Gen.G are trying to respond in kind, but it's not really working out. We'll see what player 1's got cooked up in this late round scenario.
Well, he has 30 seconds. So he has some time to think things through. And it looks like he's going to try to make something happen. Gets pushed into the smoke and crashes again through the smoke. That's I think that's like three kills at this point that Envy have been able to get through smokes in insane situations like that. Envy looks so good right now, Simo.
Yeah, very, very happy to see them in such good form. You know, when you add 2 players to the roster, you definitely have a lot of question marks. Is this roster going to perform to the caliber that you want it to, especially considering Envy has been sitting in the top 5 for quite some time throughout the duration of the Ignition Series events. Of course, Sentinels, of course, TSM have been kind of the kings of the castle. But for Envy, this is a great statement piece, especially if they come up as first seed. They'll have their pick of the litter moving into the close qualifier. So this is a great start for them. But I've heard a couple of rumblings that this is their best map. We're going to be moving on to Gen.G territory after this.
Well, and remember, this is Envy, a different look, a different roster, but this is Envy that got second at Pop Flash. So these guys are the real deal. To be able to continue that success with a different roster, it's quite frankly impressive. Envy down to 3 members left here. It's going to be a 3v3 as the spike moseys its way over onto B. Player 1 spots one, but he's going to get mowed down through the cage. Again, Spectre up against Pistol. There's not a whole lot you can do there. Envy comfortably in control here. The spike is down over on B. There's nobody from Gen.G anywhere near it. It's a tough situation.
They've actually left the site a little bit more wide open here for Gen.G. Of course, they don't know that there's a smoke in their way. But Envy are trying to play the flank game, and of course for Gen.G, they've got a lot of angles to cover. And you see Sean maybe a little bit unexpected of that push there from Finesse to come up through the stairs there. A great round here for Envy, considering they've won the first 2. Once again, we're back down to this situation where Gen.G were able to win that 3rd round gun round conversion. But Mame's got an op, so there's that.
And he, not quite the same thing, but yes, him with the op. He showed us in the last half how freaking good he is with it, both through smokes and then just straight ups up against Win. Win's not going to be able to match that. So firepower, slight nod as far as the op goes, but they do have 3 Spectres that they're bringing into this thing here. So we'll see. The thing is, Simo, if Envy is able to win this one too, that severely hurts Gen.G.
That's so unfortunate there for Caboose. Fault line, he's trying to get into a corner to save himself. He does have Mame ditch him entirely, but he still has the angle in towards the garage. This first peek is likely going to be a good one. I expect them to smoke the top side. There's really no reason to smoke this unless they don't want this contact point with the op. We'll see how they do end up playing it for Gen.G. They're all stacked up as 4. They've got player 1 slowly rotating back around as he set up some of his utility on the A side. Now as the flash comes through, it doesn't quite connect with Mame. He'll be able to back off this first pick off the win. That's got to hurt Sean. Now going to be pushing forward the flashback. He can find a pick here. It's going to be Finesse. Gets there close range. Oh, goodness. 2 on the round. Down to the 2v3. Something, and they need to do something fast. It's all down to 1. He's not got his friends beside him. He's all on his lonesome. Kimon will fall, and Envy will win 3 in a row.
Oh, 1 is the loneliest number, unfortunately, there for Gen.G. But again, Simo, it was Mame with the op. I believe that was 3 on the round for him. Insane shots, insane kills, picks that were so important for the larger outcome of that round. So Envy, again, looking like a well-oiled machine. And Simo, Gen.G are down to scraps. 4 sheriffs, excuse me, and a classic. This does not look good for Gen.G.
Oh, I did not expect this map to go this way, but considering the rumblings that we've heard, a comfortable map here for Envy. See what the second map holds in store. But Envy having a very comfortable performance on this map. Considering we've only seen him on it once, Bind being their other favorite pick here, they're not going to be able to play it as Gen.G take it out of the pool. Ooh, Gen.G have also not played a whole lot of Bind in this tournament. In fact, 0 times in this tournament. We'll see how that second map unfolds. I do imagine that Envy are on the precipice of closing this out. This is a rough round for Gen.G. Should be round 12, match point for Envy, but not down and out, as they can definitely take it to map 2 and 3 with their map selection there.
Well, and the problem too is for Gen.G, oftentimes in an eco, you've got the Blade Storm to keep things spicy, but Win doesn't even have that. So odds heavily stacked against Gen.G on this round. It looks like Envy has spotted where the push is going to be coming in from. It comes in from in, goes to the mail room, and Gen.G are doing it, ladies and gentlemen. Win with the classic makes it sing, but they're not out of the woodworks quite yet. They may have the numbers advantage, but the spike is not down, and there's still an op in the hands of Mame.
Oh, he's gone.
30
Caboose will
seconds
take him out.
left.
Now it's the 3v3. That operator that they managed to sneak away from Envy will be down behind enemy territory. Now it's the 3v3. We'll see how they, of course, play this out. Player 1 has upgraded to a weapon that he managed to find up there in heaven with the 2 picks that they were able to collect. Now Envy still need to worry about this retake. We haven't seen them yet in this particular situation, as they've just started playing the defense. Now they start to push through. Caboose there with the showstopper. Perfect shot right onto Mikael. Player 1, the last player standing, playing close to the turret. Cannot convert there onto Crashies. Nevertheless, a close round against Envy when they were down and out on weapons.
And again, I apologize. Thank you for catching that. It was not Mame who still had the op. It was Win, and he got taken out shortly thereafter. But either way, even though things look good, they look spicy for Gen.G for a moment. Envy was able to retake. They were able to get onto the site and push this thing to match point. Gen.G is going to be able to buy here, so they're going to have guns. And the thing is, when you're talking about teams of this caliber, you can never count one of them out. As far down as they might be, this looks dire. Let's not let's not try to spin something up to be prettier than it is, but it's possible. Gen.G have it in them. They just have to execute, and the thing is, when you're down as far as you are, you cannot afford any mistakes. Wing goes in, and that's not a mistake. He's able to take out Food.
And that's an important member to note here for Envy. The clutch factor is out of commission. Mame does have the ability to participate in that as well, as he's trying to peek out there with the op, but he gets pushed away. Gen.G, they just pull back. They're still a little undecided. Maybe going to re-engage here temporarily. But for Envy, they're still holding fast on this A side. 3 members strong. 1 player off towards the B side. It's Caboose. He's holding things down, and he's going to shortly meet up with GEN.G if he decides to push up aggressively. But no, he's just going to back away.
See, so the thing is, Gen.G made a bunch of noise on A, and then they stopped. You presume that that means they're rotating over back to the other site. But Envy hasn't moved. There's the showstopper. Mummy's able to get yet another pick with the op. Win goes in aggressively, but on the opposite side, Crashies, he's able to get 2. Sean and Mikael are taken out. Win still has that Blade Storm, but he is now severely outnumbered in a 4v2. Envy in firm control.
Started off. That's going to be a beautiful start. What do you mean
left.
Started off hot? He's going to find 3 on the round. Now it's a 2v2. Gen.G started hot. Envy nullified. And now it's down to the 2v2 slider. Unfortunately, in enemy territory. That's going to be the red carpet that's rolled out. They got Blade Storms for days. Gordon Ramsay would be proud. The slice and dice goes on to win. Down to 1 final player. Gen.G get that spike down, but GEN.G has too many angles to cover. Envy win split 13-4 in a large statement piece here in the semifinal showdown.
13-1 against T1, now 13-4 against Gen.G. You probably need to start banning this map up against Envy because they look really freaking good. And Timo, we saw really good rounds really on both sides. We saw their comfort in playing aggressively on attack and playing passively and kind of waiting things out. And then on the defensive side, we saw that they're perfectly capable of fending off a push initially. They're also perfectly capable of fighting off and playing a retake and doing so in successful fashion. So this Envy squad, again, that came in second at Pop Flash, that went through a heavy roster change, seems like a force to be reckoned with right now.
And, you know, I think the fact that the IGL has remained the same here for Envy, Finesse really calling the shots for the team, the addition of Food and Crashies, the fact that the communication looks like it's crystal clear for a pretty newly stitched together roster with players from the prior T1 roster, Food and Crashies, it really shows that they're able to just adapt, really swap the roles off here and there and put people in other roles. Like, so for example, we're going to Ascent next. Mame does not play Jet on Ascent. He plays the Omen, and it gives space for Food to play a more duelist role instead of the Omen that he played last time. But nevertheless, the fact that the communication is there, it shows because they were able to play so well against, like you called early on, a very fundamentally sound team in Gen.G.
And folks, if you haven't been following along, or even if you have and this kind of slipped past your radar, that's the first map Gen.G drops all tournament.
Oh yeah,
they have not dropped one at all, and now they meet Envy again. This studded roster who looks very, very good on split, and it wasn't like a 13-10, it wasn't a 13-11. It was a very convincing win on the side of Envy. So if you're Envy, you've got to be feeling really good. But as you said, Ascent spicy, right? Gen.G is 5-0 on Ascent in this tournament. Now Envy are no slouches on Ascent either, coming in at 4-1. This thing's going to be a banger. This map is going to be out of control.
And with that, we're going to throw it to a quick little break, ladies and gentlemen. Ascent on the other side of it. When we return, we'll see if Gen.G can take map 2 or if Envy will find us in a clean sweep. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back after this.